I'm here editing this video, and this is me building the table. I showed me editing a video before. Now, this is a good example of a way more complicated one. Even more complicated than this one was the one I did before this, the one for the chair, which was 130 something clips. This one is, I don't know, close to 100 anyway. But as you can see, it's, all pieced together, and it takes a lot of time. I started this yesterday morning, and I got so far in, and then I had to stop because I was getting too, I don't know, my back was starting to hurt sitting here endlessly, at this. So I went out in the shop, and I started doing the camera gantry thing. And then I came in, I quickly edited that first thing. And that was just 3 clips. It was quickly done. And then I went back at this, and then I went back at it again last night. And then I got up this morning with the intention of finishing it, and I just did. And I'm not even sure what time it is. I think it's around lunchtime. So a lot of time goes into this. What I was thinking about while I was doing this, because this is all solid wood, and I don't normally work with solid wood. Not that I have anything against solid wood. It's just, I think that it's a way of thinking, actually. There's the solid wood mentality, and then there's the plywood mentality. I prefer to think of plywood as engineered wood. I think that's more appropriate term for it. Although plywood, but because you see, the word plywood has a negative connotation in a lot of people's minds. A lot of people that actually don't know the difference between, solid wood and plywood, actually. They think that's anything that's plywood is garbage. Anything that's solid wood is obviously superior. So I've got kind of the plywood way of thinking. Some guys, when they go to make something like a box or something, they'll start with a solid wood frame that they'll build with, say 2x2s and screws, and try to screw all that together. And then they will try to put something on the outside of that, or they'll put panels on the inside. And I don't do that. I start with plywood and make the box completely out of plywood and skip the solid wood frame altogether. I think that that's a much better way of doing things. And, I'll take an example of the recent video I did on my second woodworking channel there. The star knobs, I made those from plywood, and I said Baltic birch plywood would be the best thing to make them from. And I do believe that's true. If you could, okay, I'm going to make some from solid maple for my camera gantry thing. And solid maple is a good thing to make stuff from. It's good solid hardwood. But the problem with it is it has grain, and it has weakness across or along that grain. So if you have a star knob type shaped thing, one of those lobes, you could say, that's fairly thin, is going to have grain going across it, and that makes it weak. Now, for a star knob type application like that, it's not going to make a bit of difference. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever, because it'll still, it won't break because you're not actually putting that much force on it. But for other applications, especially if you're going to try to put a screw through a narrow place like that, that immediately weakens it to the point where it could break, and it's always a question mark. So it's like my push stick, my L-shaped push stick. I say make that from plywood. Do not make that from solid wood. And another good thing about plywood is that it doesn't expand and contract like solid wood will. So if you're making a tabletop, you've always got to make allowances when you've got a big expanse of solid wood. You always have to make allowances for that expansion and contraction. Otherwise it will, cup or warp or break the structure underneath that's holding it. Whereas plywood doesn't do that. So yeah, just something that popped in my head while I was here doing this. That happens, and I, want to talk about it. It's just, I like to see people's attitude towards sheet goods in general change, and it starts with being educated about what they're best for. And there are lots of places, like I've said, where plywood would be the best choice rather than solid wood.